Pilling is a village in Lancashire surrounded by a marsh. It has a pottery in it that makes pots. Both are called Pilling Pottery. Click like, subscribe, tell your mates about us, and join us again next week for another episode of Lancashire Footnotes. We're being unfair. Pilling's a lot more interesting than that. It's got the remains of a 5th century church and the remains of a windmill in it for a start, and a Georgian church that's closed nowadays, and a donkey boggart, and a bridge with the devil's hoof print in it, and a reconstructed pinfold, and something prehistoric known as the Kate Pad. However, to the common outsider, it might all seem just a bit parochial. There's a saying that you kick one of them in Pilling and they all wince. Pilling folk don't so much have family trees as withered stumps. At the last count, there were only 5 surviving surnames in the district, and one of them was Flossie. Allegedly, it's not my opinion. However, we're wandering from the history here. This is New as Wood, the site of the original church. There's not much left of it now, just the prehistoric ditch surrounding it, and a few scattered bones unearthed by blasphemous rabbits. Somebody's even nicked the plaque explaining the site's relevance, or it's been eaten by sheep. Whatever the case, the church boasted an anchorite during the medieval period called Agnes Shepherd, a devoutly religious woman who sealed herself into a small stone cell next to the church and devoted her life to prayer, in much the same way that modern football fans devote themselves to lives of dominoes in sports bars. When the church was demolished in Georgian times, most of the stones allegedly ended up in the rebuild. Above the door of said Georgian church there's an unusually placed sundial, the inscription of which reads, "Thus eternity approaches." In the case of Reverend G. Holden, in whose honour it was erected, eternity arrived in 1793, when he died, aged 70. Holden was responsible for calculating the rise and fall of the tides, resulting in those tide table booklets so indispensable to fishermen. According to local tradition, he was a small humpbacked man with one arm longer than the other. Although how important this was when it came to calculating the lunar positions, it's impossible to say. The church itself was once the haunt of the notorious Reverend Potter, who's become something of a legend around these parts. A pugilistic parson who's famed for his plundering of wrecks, his thunderous admonitions of the congregation, and his bare-knuckle fighting. According to Alan Clark's Windmill Land, one Sunday evening, a man rushed into church with news of a wreck. The congregation, scenting spoil, began to move at door, whereupon the parson called out as he hurried down from pulpit, "Here, let's all start fair." Potter once managed to preach twice and fight thrice on the same Sunday, cancelled a wedding because the bride was 5 minutes late, and following the death of his first wife, married a young girl from the village, the father of whose illegitimate child had never been established. We're saying nothing. Going off at a tangent, Pilling also has a green, which is more of a brown, if we're being honest, being permanently churned up and spat out as it is by who knows what sort of local farm animals. Towards the northwest corner, tucked away besides what the locals call a lane, although the rest of us would probably call it a ginnel, stands the pinfold. Pilling Council rebuilt it at great expense. The original stones were recycled in its reconstruction, although, judging by the size of it, about a third of them went missing en route. In 1805, the following bail charges were set for the release of stray animals, costing reckless farmers a quarter of a penny per goose, 1 penny per pig, 2pence per sheep, 3pence for a calf, and 4pence for a cow or a horse. On the coastal side of the village, not so long ago, 2 ancient gravestones could be found on the beach. They dated to the 1650s and appeared to record the final resting place of C. Dickinson and Margaret, his wife. According to the extremely late Reverend Charles, in 1717, when Newers Wood was being demolished, a certain Mr. She Dickinson, don't ask, it's an odd Christian name, we know, but then again, as we've mentioned before, the good folk of Pilling has some very odd ways, helped himself to said gravestones to use as lintels in his barn. Unfortunately, She's superstitious relatives weren't very keen on the idea. On several occasions, these stones allegedly turned of their own accord. Following a heated debate with the missus, the farmer loaded the gravestones back onto his cart and dumped them on the foreshore, where they remained in perpetuity, or at least until the new sea defences swallowed them up. And so to Pilling Mill, driven by steam rather than wind at one time. In its day, Pilling Mill was the tallest in the district, standing 73 feet high over a span of 6 stories. Allegedly, the entire building took only 21 days to erect. The last time we looked, it was a holiday home for dogs. There's a second-hand barn on Duck Street, by which I mean there's a barn that sells second-hand stuff. The barn itself is just a barn. It's good. We bought most of our furniture from there. Believe it or not, there's more we could tell you, such as the archaeological dig we conducted at Bodkin Hall, the old village blacksmiths, or Field House, which featured on some Channel 4 programme or other, or the Donkey Boggart, which haunts Pilling Hall, or the Pilling Pig, which probably deserves an episode in its own right. We're not going to, though, because we've run out of time. You know the score by now. Click like, subscribe, or don't. Same time, same place next week. Here's the credits.